What's going on, everybody, and welcome to Wrestlemania 38. We're almost there. 2 WrestleManias left to go, and it's onward to WrestleMania 40. This WrestleMania took place April 2nd and 3rd, 2022 at Dallas Cowboys Stadium in Arlington, Texas. Which has always been funny to me that they call themselves the Dallas Cowboys and they're not in Dallas, but that is neither here nor there. I root for the Washington Commanders and we don't play in Washington, so, you know. Who am I to judge, right? Of course, as always, we have Rob's ratings on the side, the match title up at the top, and a very, very stacked 15-match card. So, let's get to it. Starting off with the WWE SmackDown Tag Team Champion match between the Usos, Jay and Jimmy Uso, the champions coming in, versus Rick Boogs and Shinsuke Nakamura. A decent back and forth that was trending upwards until it was disappointingly cut down by injury. Unfortunately, Rick Boogs' legit leg injury, which would take him out for quite a while, hurt this match and cut down. It cuts it down to a basic tag match. What had happened in the spot, which is pretty ironic because he was faking a knee injury coming into this match, only to actually get one. He was trying to put both of the Usos on his back for a slam of some kind, and his knee just gave out on him. It buckled, he fell. It was rough. You could definitely tell that it was improv from all 3 remaining members. They played to the point they ran out of script. I assume he was supposed to tag Rick Boogs at that point, but of course Boogs is down, so you literally see Jimmy and Shinsuke like stay on the mat for a second, and the ref like kind of come to them, and then Jey Uso start pumping up the crowd so the camera could focus on him, while the 3 of them, the ref, Jimmy, and Shinsuke, could figure out an ending for the match. I actually thought it was pretty genius of how they did that, but unfortunately, even before that injury, this match wasn't that great, and it got worse after the injury because they didn't really know what to do. They were kind of ad-libbing it as they went. It was a great way to end it, but I wish we could have seen the full match. I gave this match a 4 out of 10. I can't rate it 100% fairly, obviously because of the injury shortening this match to less than 10 minutes, but what we got was really bad. 4 out of 10. Rob slightly disagrees. He gave this a 3 out of 10. Of course, it's still going to end up being that 4 because of the 0.5 rule. But I really wish we could have seen what we could have gotten here if Rick Boogs didn't get injured. Of course, next up we have Drew McIntyre versus Happy Corbin. Another match that I'm not 100% sure really fits the card here. Another basic match. It had good moments and generally towed the average line. Drew looked good. Drew looked great. Corbin is about as average as they come at this point. I much prefer him now in his I don't know what they call themselves. His tag team with Braun Breaker, who that man is going to be fucking lethal in a couple of maybe by next WrestleMania. Honestly, Braun Breaker, but. Again, I like Corbin now. Didn't really like him at this point. It's not that he's bad. He's just nothing I'd call Mania level. Drew kicking out of the End of Days ignited a massive pop from the crowd. It was a great finish. It was the first time anyone's ever kicked out of the End of Days finisher, so that is a major moment. Drew chopping off the ring ropes with the sword after he won. Madcap Moss tried to jump up there. He grabbed that sword and literally cut the ring ropes and snapped everything off. That was a great sight. Overall, I gave this match a 5 out of 10. It was a relatively average, generic match. Nothing bad, nothing great, decent entertainment. Rob agrees. Gave this match a C as well, so that is where we are going to put it at a 5 out of 10. Next up, we have Logan Paul and The Miz versus the Mysterios, Dominic and Rey Mysterio. This is Logan Paul's first match in the WWE. This is Dominic Mysterio's first ever WrestleMania. So it was very exciting to see these two in this match again. For the record, should have mentioned this before, this was actually the first WrestleMania I watched since returning to WWE, so I actually watched this main event, watched this WrestleMania live, so I'm back in it now. I'm back in my wrestling days again. So I started watching about 4 or 5 pay-per-views before WrestleMania 38, so I had kind of gotten caught up with the stories at this point. So kind of give you some insight, I was not a fan of Dominic Mysterio. I thought he was extremely green. I thought he looked great in this match. He for both matches, even in WrestleMania 39, Dominic Mysterio saved his best work for WrestleMania. He really has. A Green Dom, Logan's debut, both fun to see, knowing where these two go from here. Phenomenal back and forth. Rey Mysterio had found the fountain of youth again. Dom did enough to keep the match flowing. Miz looked great, which is interesting because he hadn't looked great going into this match either. Very inconsistent at this point. Logan showcases natural instinct and talent that we've come to expect from him now. Obviously, this is probably his worst match, but it's still really good. He was able to ease himself into the spotlight here, really showcase his natural heel ability. He's, stealing the Three Amigos, the splash that almost won, where he did the Eddie Guerrero shake. Probably should have, actually, because Dom was late to break it up to the point where Rey Mysterio had to kick out himself, which he wasn't supposed to have to. Miz quick tags in while the Mysterios hit the double 619. Double Mysterio splash into Logan. Excuse my voice break there. And then Miz slams Dom into Rey Mysterio, then skull-crushing finale. Amazing flurry. Fantastic ending. I gave this match a 7 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. Genuinely enjoyed it, start to finish. Thought all four left the match better than they entered. Rob agrees. He gave this match a B as well. So, a 7 out of 10 is where this match is going to go. Great introduction for Dominic Mysterio and Logan Paul. Next up, we have Bianca Belair versus Becky Lynch, who is the champion coming in for the Raw Women's Championship. A near classic for me. Something these two women have become absolutely accustomed to, in my opinion. A non-stop 20-minute action slammed match that never lets up. Amazing spots, amazing drama. Neither woman has control for too long, which is, of course, a check in my book. Either you both need long control segments, or neither one of you get one at all. They never seem to have the edge. You can never really tell who's going to win, which, again, I love unpredictability. I can accept predictability if it's good. If it tells a good story or it's still a good match leading up to it, I'm fine with predictability, but this match was completely unpredictable. I had no idea who was winning it. They both came in with momentum. Obviously, Becky is the champion. Bianca's coming in to try to, cement her place in wrestling echelon, if you will. At no point did I know who was coming out on top. The chemistry these two have is sensational. The finish was arguably the right one, with Bianca Belair winning. Again, this was a great conclusion of a story that these two had been telling for about 6 months now. A great finish. I gave this a 9 out of 10. I would have liked one key spot to cement this as an all-time classic 10 out of 10, but a 9 out of 10 is nothing to sneeze at. Rob didn't like this match clearly as much as I did. He did give us a B+, so it's going to be an 8. Obviously, that 0.5 roll is going to move it up to a 9, so it's still going to end up there at the end. But, again, great match, missing that one spot that would put it over the top. Next up, we have Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins. And I don't want to leave Rob waiting. This is Cody Rhodes' big return. And since I'm using our WrestleMania 39 spot to actually give our WrestleMania 40 predictions, we won't be able to talk about Cody Rhodes' WrestleMania 39, so instead we're going to talk about him here in today's match review. Welcome, everyone, to the WrestleMania 38 match review. 3, 2, 1. Whoa! We can't yell because our roommate's asleep, but I'm really glad that we both had the exact same thing in mind. I didn't have to tell you what to do. Welcome to Seth Rollins versus Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes' big return to the WWE. My little snippet here for this match. Cody Rhodes returns to the WWE as the American Nightmare after rising AEW to the links that it had reached at this time. He left and returned to where he started, and what a match he came back to. Seth just puts on bangers no matter who he's in the ring with, it seems. This match didn't consist of anything major, at least not until the very end. No unique spots, again, until the very end. But the match itself was a Mania moment. The match that would hypervault both on their superstar pathways, which would be further pushed by their arguably even better Hell in a Cell match. An amazing back and forth, both wrestlers dumping the arsenal to put Cody over as the future superstar of the company. Typical finisher near falls you'd expect from a Mania match, but the ending was phenomenal. Just an absolute insane rush. Missed stomps, Cody went off, 3 crossroads, the Dusty Rhodes classic movesets, 1 final crossroads, and the ending of a fantastic return match by Cody Rhodes. 9 out of 10. Amazing match. What did you give this match?
An A.
You gave us an A? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we've talked about Seth before, and how absolutely amazing that man is at most regards. I mean, he's one of your favorite wrestlers of all time in general. But this was a big return for Cody, because when Cody left, he didn't look like this. When Cody left, he was a scrawny little kid that was Stardust at the time, and he was fun to watch. Like, honestly, going back through and watching these WrestleMania reviews, I've always enjoyed watching Cody Rhodes, which is shocking because when I was growing up and watching him live, I didn't really care much for him. But watching him now, he was really fucking good.
I don't know how you didn't care for him, dude. I've always been a fan of Cody. That he had that was it the untapped potential?
When I was a kid, I was a big fan of the physiques that a lot of the stars had, like Randy Orton, Triple H, stuff like that, Beth Phoenix.
Yeah, see, I've always been a smaller guy, so
like I've always like Randy Orton was always one of my favorites because at the time before I got fat, I was a very tall and lanky individual, so Randy Orton's physique, I was like, hey, if I ever get really big and strong, I'm going to look like Randy Orton. Then I got fat and realized, no, Eric, you're not. You're going to look more like Otis. But when...
Damn.
But I can do some self-deprecating humor here. But with Cody Rhodes, like, I was never a big fan of how he looked. He didn't look like a superstar potential kind of guy, and I hate saying that because it's not fair, especially not now, when there are so many different physiques and so much different talent, and it's really just about the personalities and characters when it all gets down to it. Cody Rhodes never stuck with me. He sticks with me now, and maybe it's because I'm older. Again, like I said, I've gone back through and watched his older matches now, and he's amazing. Always has been. What is it about Cody Rhodes now that makes him different than the Cody Rhodes before?
Okay, so before I get to that, so you acknowledging that you appreciate it more now, maybe because you're older, I think it's more or less the dynamic within the superstars have changed. Because, when we grew up, it was steroids, all around us, baseball, wrestling, all that stuff, football. And it was, the larger-than-life personalities, Hulk Hogan, Sting, Razor Ramon, all them. And then as the PG era took off, that's when it was... Oh, you have these big guys like Cena, Orton, Edge, and I mean, they were yoked back then, but they were still smaller than those larger than life, and the dynamic shifted toward those younger guys. And so I think as we've been watching these WrestleManias, you notice the smaller guys like Cody Rhodes, Dolph Ziggler,
Seth Rollins, arguably.
When he was with the Shield, yeah, Finn Balor. Even The Miz, because The Miz is a bigger dude, but he's not as cut as the larger-than-life characters. You can see that dynamic shift, and then now that we're older, you probably appreciate it. You know what I mean? But the difference between Cody now and Cody back then, it's the fact that he was able to make a name for himself. I mean, when... he was a part of Legacy and all that. I didn't really watch wrestling, but I knew of it. I knew of that faction and everything. My boy Matt always kept me up to date on it. I knew Cody Rhodes was going to be bigger than Ted DiBiase, but then I knew Vince was never going to be sold on him, just because he was a smaller guy. And Vince has the biggest boner for the biggest dudes. And then, I even said to Matt, during his Stardust character, I was like, dude, that his Stardust character is fucking amazing. He puts so much effort into it, and yet he's completely getting overlooked. He needs to leave. He needs to leave, join another company, whether it's TNA, Ring of Honor, AEW wasn't a thing at the time.
He ended up making AEW.
Yep, he ended up making AEW. And that's when he's going to, develop on the indies. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Same thing I said with Zack Ryder and Sasha Banks when she was toward like the latter part of her WWE tenure, and he just completely recreated himself. I mean, yeah, does he still carry the Rhodes name or legacy? Sorry, yes, 100%. But he's created himself and molded himself into his own, and that's why he's the big superstar he is now.
Great breakdown. I actually really enjoyed that. Obviously, during tomorrow's match review, we're not going to necessarily talk about the Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns match because tomorrow's match review is going to be our WrestleMania 40 breakdown. Mm-hmm. Do you think Cody Rhodes has the potential to be the face of the company?
Oh, dude, I knew that when his contract with AEW was coming to an end. I was like, all right, he's going to come back and he's going to be the fucking face.
Mm-hmm.
Either he's not going to be the face and he's going to be the World Heavyweight Champion, which is Seth Rollins' role, but he's going to have one of the two big titles.
Mm-hmm. And just because it is getting a little bit later on here with this review, going back to this match specifically, obviously we both very much enjoyed this match.
Mm-hmm.
Does it shock you watching this match that these are the same two people that are basically leading the company now? Like, no. When this match happened, when you were watching this match, did you ever think, I'm watching the two top faces effectively in the business? Obviously, you can make a case that people like LA Knight might be and Sami Zayn might be bigger faces now. Those two came out of total left field. But when you were watching this match, do you feel like you were watching the two biggest faces eventually, or the two biggest names in the WWE?
Dude, when Seth Rollins debuted in the Shield, I knew that he was going to be the biggest one out of them all. I mean, people can argue, yeah, Roman Reigns is the top guy. He's held the championship for however many days he's held it.
Mm-hmm.
But I always knew Seth Rollins was going to be the guy. Again, I've always been a smaller guy. I've always liked the smaller wrestlers, the high flyers, stuff like that. And then I was always a big fan of Cody. And then I knew that if he was going to come back, he wasn't going to go back to his old gimmick because he had enough pull with what he did on the indies, his last minute show spots, with like Ring of Honor and stuff like that, and then ultimately helping create majority of what AEW is today. I know toward the end of his AEW phase, he was kind of like written off to a degree, like he kind of fell down the card, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that wasn't due to him. I think that was backstage politicking and Tony Khan not having control of the roster.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when Cody said, all right, look, it's my time to dip. I did all I could. You know what I mean? Because he was the top guy there for the longest time.
Okay. Well, we've hit the 10-minute mark here, so any closing remarks on this match?
On this match? Look, there's a part of me that's so used to the woe at this point that when it didn't happen, I kind of was shocked, even though I remember watching this live and not remembering if there was a woe or not. So they kind of like fucked me up to a degree. Because I woed by myself and I was like, oh, this kind of sucks.
The lonely woe.
Yeah.
And speaking of the lonely woe, back to me.
Wow. That was...
And welcome back. Again, me and Rob both agreed this match is definitely an A. It is a fantastic finish, fantastic match overall. Robin A, I gave it a 9, so that is where it's going to go at a 9 out of 10. So we will go ahead and put it there, and we will move right on to Charlotte Flair, who is the champion coming in, versus Ronda Rousey for the WWE SmackDown Women's Championship. A very decent back and forth, and a good story being told about Charlotte Flair kind of trying to out-wrestle while Ronda's trying to out-submit. But the action just can't keep up with the previous two matches. I mean, everything going into this match was so elite, was so top tier. And then you got to this match, and it was just a little bit of a letdown, honestly. A few botches, especially the glaringly botched somersault off the top rope where she hit it, no one's there, then she flips again and still misses. It was really bad. It hurt the match. The ending was super bad. Quick tap after the ref gets knocked down, and then Ronda just shoots up immediately like, you didn't hold it. Charlotte didn't give it time to set. It was very poorly timed, very poorly paced. Set up a meth finish where she just got kicked in the head, and that's it. The whole ending felt rushed. It really did. It just felt like they were told, hey, you guys went too long. We got to hurry up and end this, and so they did. Overall, the match was decent. I gave it a 6 out of 10 because of the really rough ending and the not great sequences in the middle. Rob liked it even less than me. He gave it a low C. So like a 4.5, if you will. That's going to end up averaging this out to a 5, effectively. So I think a 5 is where we're going to put this. Again, unfortunate because I know that Charlotte is capable of more. Whether Ronda's capable of more or not, that's to be determined. I was never really a big fan of Ronda Rousey, and based on the way her attitude afterwards, she didn't take wrestling very seriously, so I guess you kind of get what you get with this one. And next up we have the main event of night 1, Stone Cold versus Kevin Owens in a no-hold-barred match. Having the KO show main event was a pretty awesome idea. It was new, it was unique, it was genius. And it also set up, you knew a match was going to come out of this, but you would have been fine if it was just the two of these talking and then Stone Cold stunned him and then drank beer. You would have been fine with it. No one, and I think I can honestly say no one expected this to be a 14-minute match. A legit match. Stone Cold took bumps. Kevin Owens took bumps. Stone Cold actually got his ass kicked at parts. Stone Cold commenced to kicking ass and could still do it. This match blew my mind when I watched it live, and watching this back reminded me of just how mind-blowing it really was that this match happened. And it was a match. Listen, the actual match, the no holds barred stipulation, this match obviously needed it to cook as long as it did. Stone Cold, it allowed Stone Cold to not need to be carried. It allowed him to do his brand of good offense, just like you've seen him do against The Rock countless times before. That no hold stipulation just unlocks the shackles on that man, and he becomes a god again. They brawl around the arena. Stone Cold took massive bumps, such as a suplex onto concrete, delivering 2 suplexes himself onto KO from the stage. So awesome to see Stone Cold actually excel at the stage, and props to KO for making this work. The stunner near fall was iconic. The stunner finish was even better because KO stunned him and then he stunned KO. If KO didn't win the tag belts the following WrestleMania, I'd argue this is like the highlight of his career, is having this match against Stone Cold, and it would have been well-deserved and worth it, and it would have definitely been a match to hang your hat on. Of course, he tops it in the following WrestleMania, which we'll talk about tomorrow, but this match was so entertaining, a bit nostalgic perhaps, maybe that's why I rated it as highly as I did, but this match was still fantastic, even without the nostalgia factor to it. I gave this match an 8 out of 10. Rob agreed, gave it a B as well. I will absolutely be moving this up to an 8. I mean, it's going to be an 8 anyway, even if Rob meant it as a 7. That 0.5 rule is going to put it there, but I don't say you can give this match lower than an 8 when it comes down to it, because even if you take the nostalgia out of it, this is still a great fucking match. They still put on a banger for a main event of night 1. Moving on to night 2, we have the WWE Raw Tag Team Triple Threat match between RK Bro, which is Randy Orton and Riddle, who are the champions coming in. They would win and retain. Versus Alpha Academy, Gable and Otis, who were heels, which is interesting. I forgot they were heels for a bit. Versus the Street Profits, Angelo Dawkins and Montez Ford. Anytime that those two are on my screen, I know I'm getting a banger. I say that now. If they can squeeze a banger out of their match at WrestleMania 40, I will be shocked, and they should be shot to the moon, pushed to the moon. Montez Ford should have gold around his waist if they can make a good match out of Karrion Kross in the AOP. But they definitely squeezed gold out of this match. Extremely fast-paced, blended the 6 styles seamlessly. You had the sneaky athletic ability of Otis, the technical master Gable, the slick-hitting Riddle, the high-flying Montez, the power-hitting Angelo Dawkins, and Randy Orton being Randy Orton, which is basically a style all to its own. Great spots, great timing, almost nothing was botched, great ring awareness, exciting back and forth, phenomenal finish with the RKO off the top turnbuckle onto Montez by Riddle. So Riddle hit the RKO there, followed by a flying RKO on Gable after he dove at Randy Orton. A great opener for night 2, an exciting finish. I gave this match an 8 out of 10. Nothing makes me popped like a well-timed RKO, other than maybe the pure sight of Montez Ford's splashes, which, again, as I've always said, are the best in the business. Obviously, we need to get Rob's night 2 ratings pulled up here, and maybe make them bigger so people with eyesights can actually see it. He gave his match a B as well, so we are going to go ahead and move this up to that 8 out of 10. As you can tell, this card is starting to stack up great. We've got some bangers at the top and only one mad match, and that match was only mad because of injury, so that's pretty promising for this card overall. Next up, we have Bobby Lashley versus Omos. The Nigerian Giant gimmick is what he's going out with now. Personally, I thought this was a fun bout for what it was. Omos was an undefeated giant that before the Raw before this was never knocked off his feet, and it took everything Lashley had to get this win. I thought it told a very convincing story. It was very interesting to see Lashley actually dominated for a while. And again, I thought it was a decent match for a giant as Omos. It was exactly what you expected when this match started, except for I thought it looked good, and I don't usually think Bobby Lashley looks that great. But him not being the dominating one and actually being kind of thrown around a little bit, he sold it great. Again, this match is nothing remarkable. I gave it a 5 out of 10, but I don't think it's as bad as some people think it is. Such as Rob, who gave this match a D. I gave this match a 5. Rob gave it a 2. That's going to average out to a 3.4, so we are going to get our second 4 rating here. Again, I'm fine with it because, again, I gave it a 5, so it's not like I gave it a sparkling review. I feel like a 4 is a little harsh, but that's where it's at. Rob was clearly not impressed by this match, so it is what it is. We'll move on. Next up we have, in my opinion, easily the biggest surprise match of the entire event, and that's Johnny Knoxville versus Sami Zayn in an Anything Goes match. One of the funniest, most entertaining matches I've ever seen, and it had no business being this good. Was half the stunts clearly faked? Absolutely. The mousetrap that ended the match was plastic. He didn't actually electrocute him, although I think if I was Sami Zayn, well, then again, if you're tased, you might not be able to finish the match. So maybe it's best if you didn't take the taser. But it was just, the further emphasizes how great Sami Zayn is at selling, because you thought he got electrocuted. You thought he took that bowling ball to the nuts. You thought he took that shoe to the nuts. You just really did legit think that mousetrap trap at the end was heavy. It was clearly plastic. You could tell by the way it hit him. But just listen, it was great. It was a fantastic match between the two. Knoxville was taking bumps early before kind of dominating towards the end. The Jackass crew getting involved. Wee Man body slamming Sami Zayn. Party Boy stripping naked and clapping cheeks in front of everyone, as Pat McAfee said. The giant hand, the bowling ball on the ground, the mousetrap table, the giant mousetrap, everything was hilarious, even if it didn't work right at first. Pat McAfee made this match even funnier with his commentary. A great fun match. What these type of matches need to be, if you're going to do a gimmick match like this, you need to commit, and you need to commit hard. I gave this match an 8 out of 10. I loved this for far more than it should have, and I thought it did a great job at accomplishing the goal that it set out to do. Rob agreed. He gave his match a B+. He's in the same mindset as me. It was a great match for what it was meant to do, so we are going to go ahead and move this match up to an 8 out of 10. Absolutely where it belongs. Another banger. But unfortunately, they can't all be bangers, and we have the women's tag match Fatal 4-Way. Naomi and Sasha Banks would go on to win. They would beat Carmella and Queen Zelina, who are the champions coming in. Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley, and Natalya and Shayna Baszler. I don't really have a lot of notes for this match. It was a rather clunky display for a large portion. The best parts of the match involved the four you expect it to. Liv Morgan, Naomi, Rhea, and Sasha. The big moves took too long to develop for me. It seemed people were out of place at times. The count seemed slow at times from the refs. Even the ref didn't make this convincing. Unfortunately, none of them really had the chance to really send this match to any form of relevancy. So I gave this match a 4 to 10. I wasn't impressed. I didn't hate it by any means, but it wasn't that great. And of course, I don't really like 3 of the wrestlers that are involved in it. So I gave this match a 4 out of 10. It was very hard for me to get into. Rob disagrees. He thought this match was a 6 out of 10. He actually didn't love this match, but he enjoyed it a lot more than I did. So obviously that is going to average out to a 5. That's where we'll put it. Not a 4, a 5. Thank you. Yeah, again, I wasn't crazy about it. Wasn't crazy about half the teams, but overall, I really didn't like Zelina and Carmella's chemistry. And I love Zelina Vega, but she wasn't good in this match, unfortunately. And I don't really know if it was just because she wasn't given an opportunity to showcase herself at all. Next up, we have Edge versus AJ Styles. A match that honestly went on a touch too long, in my opinion. At least the final flurry. A great dream match for about 20 of the 24 minutes they were given. Great counters, great back and forth, great spots, a lot of heavy hitting moves here. The submission flurry was very dramatic. This match fit the billing exactly as you expect it to until the ending. It just seemed like the kickouts became expected. You were no longer being popped when you saw a kickout. You were just waiting for that clear, obvious winning move. And it came when Damian Priest stepped in. He jumped over the barricade. He stood there. It caused AJ Styles to pause for a second. That allowed Edge to get his footing and spear him as he jumped off the turnbuckle. That was the move you were kind of expecting. That one key big move. There it was. Edge ends up winning, and the Judgment Day begins. Or at least Damian Priest gets added to the Judgment Day, because I think Finn Balor was there already. I can't remember exactly how Judgment Day came to be, but that was kind of where it all started, and Damian Priest joined him up. Again, it was a crazy spear out of midair. I'm not going to take anything from it. So it was a fantastic, fantastic match. I thought it was an 8 out of 10 had it ended a bit earlier and had less kickouts at the end. A 7 even with them. I still thought it was a good match. Rob agrees, gave this match a B, so a 7 out of 10 is where it's going to go. That's nothing wrong with that. I mean, this is still the good range, and we have a ton of matches in it. So it's just still been a very good card up to this point. I just feel like these two could have put on a little bit of a better match had it been cut about 4 minutes shorter. Unfortunately, it's a common issue I've noticed now with Edge, because even his match against Randy Orton was far too long at WrestleMania 36. His match in WrestleMania 37, I would argue, didn't go too long, and that's because it was a triple threat match, so it was going to have an ample amount of time for it. But Edge's matches, man, they've gone the Triple H route. Not only is he not putting anyone over that isn't already at the top of their game like Roman Reigns was, but he's also just taking way too much time on these cards. Again, it's probably a personal opinion of mine, and I'm not saying that because he left for AEW and kind of split it, because I thought he left at a very, very good moment. But even in his final match, he didn't put Sheamus over. He took the win. So, I don't know. His last run here with WWE just seemed like very Triple H-esque. Next up, we have Ridge Holland and Sheamus. Speaking of Sheamus, with Butch versus The New Day, Kofi Kingston, and Xavier Woods. Fucking bullshit. This match pissed me off. This took place about 3 weeks after Ridge Holland potentially ended Big E's career. And you reward Ridge Holland's unsafe play, if you will, with a squash match. Squashing the teammates of the man whose career he potentially ruined. Now, I understand. It had only been 3 weeks, and at the time, they did not know just how bad Big E's injury was. So I can give him a pass for that, seeing as now he's effectively retired because of fan backlash. And I'm sorry if I'm adding on to that here, but this was absolute horseshit that you rewarded him with a squash match against Xavier and Kofi Kingston. He breaks his neck, gets a squash match. A squash match on WrestleMania is already bad. And then it was a bad one. 0 out of 10. A 0 out of 10. Not even worth a 1. No. Horrible decision. Horrible finish. Horrible person to do the squash match to. It's a 0 out of 10, and I will not take questions any further. I know that Rob is going to fuck this up because he gave it a D-. So he gave it a 2. So it's going to end up bumping up to a 1 because of the average, but it doesn't deserve it. And I know that Rob is going to argue that I'm speaking too much from the heart here, and that's why he gave it a 2, because it's still a trash match, but it's not as bad as I'm saying it is. But the sheer optics around it, everything going into this match, everything that came out of this match, it's trash. It's dumb. I will accept the 1 because of the rating that Rob gave it, but it honestly should probably be a 0. Next up, we have Pat McAfee versus Austin Theory. There isn't anything Pat can't do. He's a great commentator. He's a great punter. He's a great sports analyst. And he's a damn decent wrestler, too. Very sneaky, well, not really sneaky athletic. He was a literal athlete at one point, a punter for the NFL. So there was no question about his athleticism. But the fact that A, the match wasn't a disaster, and B, wasn't carried by Theory is insane. Both men carried their weight in this match. Pat was hitting great moves and selling at the same time. Theory was great at selling himself. It's the one thing Theory's always been good at is selling. The crowd was hot for this, and every time Pat did anything, the crowd blew up again. I thought this match was a 7 out of 10. This was fantastic. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Rob gave it a C+, so it's going to bump up to a 7 because of that finish. And now we're going to move on to the main event. There's no other matches on this card. There's nothing there. Ignore the match that's below this match on Rob's ratings. It doesn't exist. It just, no. I have it on mine. Vince McMahon versus Pat McAfee. Rob's grade is correct. It's an F. I'm not counting it. Look, get the fuck out. Just no. He had to put himself on there. He had to inject himself in here. Even before the accusations came out about him, it's still fucking garbage. No. I agree with Rob. It's a 0 out of 10 before Stone Cold came out and beat the shit out of all 3 of them. That made it a 1 out of 10 for me, but I'm not counting it on this. It's not fair to this card for me to count it on this. And I refuse. I know I said the same thing for Rock and Rowan and I added it, but Rock and Rowan just felt like an actual official match. Like a referee called in. This was just dumb. This was nothing more than to get a reason for Stone Cold to come out there. So I'm not counting it on here, but it was trash. Garbage. Waste of time. On to the main event, which isn't much better. We have Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar in a winner-take-all unification match for the Universal title and the WWE Championship. It's crazy hearing Brock have to speak for himself since Paul Heyman is currently with Roman Reigns. The pre-match promo between these two was amazing and it gave this a big fight feel. This match started off with being one-sided on Brock before flipping to Roman with multiple Superman punches and spears because Brock Lesnar isn't capable of doing a match that doesn't involve a million finishers. Suplexes, F5s, taking finishers, nothing else. That's basically all of Brock Lesnar matches. Personally, I'm sick of seeing these two fight. It's always a bore. It's always the same match. It's nothing different. There's nothing unique about them, except this time Roman actually has the bloodline to help him. But they don't. This is the one match where the bloodline doesn't get involved, which pisses me off that this is the match they choose not to get involved in. Definitely some positives in this match. The dramatic Kimura lock counter from a spear was good, but then it ended with a sudden spear. Now, this is my theory. I've seen nothing that backs it up. I've even looked it up, and I can't find anything that supports it, but it just doesn't make sense to me. After the Kimura lock, the second one, he complains about his shoulder being popped out or dislocated. And then he stands up and just gives a sudden spear to Brock Lesnar and pins him. And this was only a 12-minute match, which Brock Lesnar matches aren't ever long anyway. But this was a unification match. The main event of SmackDown 38. And you gave it 12 minutes? It just didn't make sense to me that he complains about his arm being out of socket to Paul Heyman. He hits a spear with the other arm, and then after the match he can barely lift the title up. I don't know if this match was shortened because of an injury to Roman Reigns. Clearly it didn't fucking stop him. He just kept doing what he did. I don't know if they called it because they didn't think his shoulder could do the spots that they wanted him to do. I don't know. Again, I have found nothing to confirm exactly what happened. This just looks odd to me that he dislocated his shoulder. They never target it. He hits a random spear on Brock, and that's the end of the match. He doesn't get no momentum. He doesn't do a Superman punch into a spear. It's not a spear out of nowhere. It's just a spear, and that's it. It came across as odd to me. I gave this match a 5 out of 10. You're unifying two belts. You have a random spur-of-the-moment ending, effectively. It's not good. Rob gave this match a C-, so it's a 4. It's going to end up averaging out to that 5, although a 4 would be a very understandable rating to give this match. But I gave it a 5. So, while we're here, let's go ahead and calculate exactly what this total is. So, this match card of 15 matches comes out to a 6.13. So again, had that one not been there, had those couple of 4s getting bumped up, you're probably looking at a top WrestleMania of all time. It's a similar thing I said about 37. You have a couple of great matches and a couple of stinkers that bring the overall rating down. But a 6.13 is nothing to sneeze at. It is still a fantastic WrestleMania. And ladies and gentlemen, that's that. Tomorrow, WrestleMania 39. Again, there will not be a typical match review tomorrow. Instead, the match review will take place at the very end of the WrestleMania review tomorrow, in which me and Rob will give our WrestleMania 40 predictions. So if you want to hear what we think about WrestleMania 40 or what we think is going to happen to WrestleMania 40, tune in tomorrow night. Even if you just skip ahead to those predictions, they will be there tomorrow night. Until then, I will see all of you guys next time. Peace.